Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone back again. We have been discussing third chapter last time. So I'll just read that the verse of Yamunacharya where he's summarizing the third chapter, and then we will very briefly summarize what we saw last time, and then quickly move ahead. Okay, so we saw from this particular work of his called as Gitartha Sangraham, where he summarizes every chapter in one or two verses. So this is the one for the third chapter. Asaktya lokarakshaye guneshwaropya kartritam sarveshware va nyasyukta tritiye karma karyata. So tritiye karma karyata means third chapter. Tritiye. What is he saying? Asaktya. So the first characteristic of karma yoga is asaktya. That means without attachment. Lokarakshaye, for the benefit of people in the world. Guneshwaropya kartritam, understanding that we are impelled by the modes and hence we must act. Sarveshwareva nyasyukta, and offer everything to the Sarveshwara, to the Supreme. Tritiye karma karyata. In this way, the third chapter has been summarized. So it's a very beautiful summarization if you just think about it, because the three important characteristics of karma yoga are mentioned here. What are they? First is asaktya, that means without attachment one should do. Second is for the benefit of people in general, lokarakshaye. And finally, guneshwaropya, understanding that we are under the modes of nature and hence we must work. Okay. So then I went on to talk about Sripad Ramanacharya's commentary, where he emphasizes that in Karma Yoga, three things are to be given up: Phalatyagam, Kartritva Buddhi Tyagam, and Mamata Tyagam. Phalatyagam means the lower aspirations like heavenly planets and so on. Kartritva Buddhi Tyagam means the idea that I am the doer has to be given up. And finally, Mamata Tyagam, that this is for me has to be given up. So this is for me is given up by understanding that this is for the Supreme. Lower aspirations are given up by understanding that work is for the benefit of people in general and not for me. And Kartritva Buddhi Tyagam is to be given up by the understanding that modes are supreme and modes are impelling us to act in various ways. Okay, having said that, we then went on to discuss the verses of the third chapter. I'll just look at just one verse which we spent some time, and that is this one. So if you remember, 3.14 and 15 we discussed to some extent. It's a very interesting cycle, the way Sripad Ramanacharya presents it. Annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyad anna sambhava yajnad bhavati parjanyo yajna karma samudbhava. Karma brahmodbhavam vidhi brahmakshara samudbhavam tasmat sarvagatam brahma nityam yajna pratishthitam. Where Krishna is saying annad bhavanti bhutani. That means living entities exist on grain. Okay, grain comes from rain. Rain comes from yajna. Yajna comes from karma yoga. Karma comes from Brahma here. Brahma is body. That means only if you have body and resources, you can do karma yoga, right? If somebody doesn't have a body only, how can you do karma yoga? And the body itself comes from Atma, because there is a because of the Atma who has done, the Jiva, he has done certain activities. That is why the body has been obtained. Tasmat sarvagatam brahma nityam yajna pratishtitam. Thus, yajna is common for everybody, because everybody has to do this yajna. Only then this chakra is fulfilled. Okay, evam pravartitam chakram. Okay, so the idea is that we have a body, and with the body one must do yajna, one must do that activities which are yajna, and only then one will get everything in this world. And in this way there is a cycle. So this is how he explains. And then we also saw the 19th verse, which is very interesting verse, which was the concluding verse that we saw last time, where it said tasmad asakta satatam karyam karma samachara asakto hyacharan karma paramapnoti purusha, where Krishna is saying that by acting in karma yoga, okay, without asakti, one can achieve the highest destination. Okay, so please remember this, that it is not that karma yoga in itself is incomplete or anything like that. No. So this verse is very clear that karma yoga itself can give one the highest destination. Paramapnoti Purusha. It can take you to the highest point. Okay, so that has been said. So in this way, the first part we saw last time. So now we are looking at another set of 10-15 verses today. So as I mentioned in the chat, I will be only looking at those points which Ramanacharya, which are kind of perhaps not mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita as it is that we all read. The reason being is most of the acharyas have given most points which are common, right? As we know, because Srila Prabhupada also, when he wrote his Bhagavad Gita, he referred to so many Bhagavad Gitas and he wrote. Right, so many points will be common between various acharyas' writings, but some points are going to be unique in everyone's description. So we are only focusing on the unique points here. Okay, so now the theme goes from to this Loka Sangraha. So please try to understand. So till now in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has been speaking about Karma Yoga in terms of doing it for the pleasure of the Lord or the Devatas. This is what he has spoken. So Krishna has said that don't think the results are for you. Offer the results to either the Supreme or the Devatas, however you visualize. So in the highest sense, it is to the Supreme. So this part has been done. Okay, so that means you do your Swadharma, but you do it as an offering to the Supreme. Now he's saying that whatever you do, this should be for the benefit of people in general. Okay, so that is what 3.20 is. Karmaneva samsiddhim astita janaka deha loka sangraham evapi sampashyan kartum arhasi. So Krishna here gives the example of Janaka by saying that, hey, look, there were these great kings like Janaka also who did karma yoga for the sake of the benefit of people in general. Loka sangraham evapi. And hence you must also follow in their footsteps only. Okay, so this is a very important verse. We'll spend some time on this and of course this entire section. So one thing about this particular verse is, in this verse, Krishna uses the word eva. You know, if you see Loka Sangraha eva api. Eva in Sanskrit means this one reason is enough. That means Krishna wants to say that even if you are not ready to accept all the other reasons for Karma Yoga, this one reason is enough that you need to do Karma Yoga for the sake of people, to set an example for people. So this one reason is enough. It's not that too many reasons are needed why you should do Karma Yoga. The reason why this is so important of, for the sake of people in general is because it is said that most people in the world only copy great personalities. Which is actually, if you think about it, it is actually so true. Most people are not going to very analytically think about how or what they should do. They just look at some good example of what people are doing and they just imitate that. That means imitating great personalities is the most easiest thing which a common man can do, and that's what he does. Okay. In fact, even the Upanishad, there is a famous Upanishad, the Taittiriya Upanishad, where it is said, Aluksha dharma kamasyuhu. That means the Taittiriya Upanishad says that if at any point of time you are not sure what is to be done, correct or wrong, just look at what great people did and then follow that. That is why Mahajano Yena Gata Sapanta. That's why that is so important. Okay, so that is why Krishna wants to tell Arjuna that, hey, Arjuna, look, it is not that Janaka was a Raja Rishi. Raja Rishi means what? Raja means one who is interested in what is present in front of his eyes, Pratyaksha. And Rishi means one who is interested in what is not present directly in front of the eyes, because the Rishi is someone who is thinking about Atma, Paramatma and all that. Right? So Raja Rishi means one who has both these characteristics. One who is interested in the present and at the same time who is interested in Atma Tattva. He is the Raja Rishi. So Krishna wants to tell Arjuna, he's giving the example of Janaka because Krishna wants to tell Arjuna, hey Arjuna, you are also like Janaka, you are a Raja Rishi. And people are going to look at your example. And if you give up Karma Yoga and you think that you will only do Jnana Yoga, because that is what Arjuna was thinking, right? I will give up Karma Yoga and I will simply do Jnana Yoga and that is enough for me. Then people are going to follow that, and because a common man cannot give up Karma Yoga at all, there is no question of his giving up, they will land in big trouble. Okay, so this is the argument that is being used in this particular verse. Okay, and it's very interesting that Krishna is using the example of Janaka because Janaka is a king. Okay, and it is said that a king, he is thinking not only about himself, but he has to think about everybody. I, I just want to share something interesting here before I just come back to this verse. I've just started learning some astrology from a teacher. So our teacher was telling us yesterday that um, this whole science of astrology is there in the Shastra mainly for kings. Okay, so he was saying that the main purpose of astrology was that kings had to do many yajnas, right? Like Ashwamedha yajna and all that they would do. So before they would start a yajna, they had to know how long they will live, whether any obstacles are there in the yajna and so on. And for that, astrology was compulsory because if they would start a yajna which would last 1 year or something, and if there is some problem for the king, then he wouldn't start only. He was not supposed to start. So the astrology was checked to ensure that it is the right time indeed for them to start this particular yajna. Otherwise, they couldn't start a yajna without consulting astrology. So our teacher was telling us yesterday that this whole thing about this INS Vikrant, right? We all know, yesterday this INS Vikrant was launched, right? So he was telling that it was such a good muhurta they had chosen, the government, to basically launch this particular muhurta. So he was saying that so like in Panchang, there are many things, right? Like yesterday was Shukravar. The Shukravar or Friday, it seems the characteristic every day of the week has a particular characteristic. Shukravar has a characteristic that it gives extra rajoguna, okay, to somebody. That means it Shukravar has that power. It's in Shukra, that energy of Shukra. So Rajoguna is very important, right, in terms of warfare, etc. That is why Friday was chosen. Then he said that yesterday at 11:30 when they launched it, that INS, the Vikrant, it was basically Saptami Tithi yesterday. And in our Vedic Panchang system, every Tithi is connected to some Devata. Just like Chaturthi is connected to Ganesh, right? Dwadashi is connected to Vishnu. Chaturdashi is connected to Lord Shiva. Like that, every Tithi is connected to one Devata. And Saptami is connected to Surya Devata. And it is said Surya Devata is very much connected to the king because Surya Vamsha, we say, Surya Vamsha Kshatriya and all that. So Surya Devata is connected very closely with king and government. So anything that government is supposed to launch, Saptami is a good tithi for them. And then he said that there is something called Hora. Okay, so in astrology, every hour is called as Hora. In fact, some commentators say that it is from the Sanskrit word hora that the English word hour came into existence. We say 1 hour, no? So this hour comes from this hora. So when they launched it at 11:33 a.m. yesterday, the hora was Mangal, Mangal hora. And Mangal or Mars is the deity for war. Okay, because Mangal represents, that's what Mangal represents. It's the deity to fight and warfare. And because this whole thing is connected to warfare and launching of this plane on the ship, etc., fighter plane on the ship, so it had to be done at a particular time. So he was giving a very half-an-hour explanation about this whole timing perspective and how this was so important for the king. So he was saying that this is very traditional. It's not something that our current government is only doing, but he said that even in age-old days, any king, when he had to do a yajna or start anything which was for the benefit of the country, nation, then he had to look at astrology and ensure, because it was for Loka Sangraha, because so many people are involved in a king's decision. I mean, the king's decision is not going to affect just one individual. Unlike individuals, if they start something on some day and their project fails also, only that individual is affected. But if a king starts something, then it has an impact on so many people in the world, right? So Loka Sangraha Mevapi. So that's why this is considered very important. Another important point to be mentioned here in the context of Loka Sangraha is that This is connected to the previous concept of Swadharma of Karma Yoga. The idea being that anything one does, it should unite people, or it should be for the benefit of all, and it should not cause chaos in society or family. Okay, this applies to anything. So some examples are given, just like I mean, we'll consider some positive examples and negative examples. Just like if you consider Yudhishthir Maharaj, he got the Akshay Patra from Surya Devata. Okay, so that Swadharma act that he did, that Karma Yoga that he did of praying to the sun god and of obtaining the Akshay Patra, that was for benefit of so many people. All the sages and everybody who were there in the forest, those Brahmanas, it was for feeding everyone. On the other hand, if you see Satrajit in the Krishna Leela, he also got one Syamantaka jewel, but that was not for everybody. He got it just for himself, and that's exactly what Krishna told him, that you should not keep such a jewel only with yourself. It should be given to the king. But Satrajit misunderstood him, and there was actually Loka Sangram. There was so much of chaos because of all that, right? So the idea is that Swadharma should always cause Loka Sangraha. That means it should bring people together. It should be the welfare of everybody, and it should not cause chaos. So this applies to it applies even if you had a good intention. Okay, so just like the example is given of Sudama, that Sudama Brahman, if you see, he was doing his Swadharma of fasting and living in poverty, but his Swadharma was not causing Loka Sangraha because his family was suffering, his children were suffering, and his wife was not happy with all his this thing. So she told him that you should go to Krishna and ask for something. You just at least go to Krishna so that maybe he can solve our problem. So his Swadharma wasn't causing Lokasangraha. Similarly, Bhishma Pitama also, his vows that he took for his Swadharma, the Swadharma of his father, it did not cause Lokasangraha. It didn't bring people together. It actually created disunity in the family and caused a big war. Dhritarashtra also. So these are negative examples. On the other hand, if you see Lord Rama, Lord Krishna, Krishna, whatever he did, it was always for the benefit of people in general only. Even sometimes people think Krishna married 16,000 times, but each of those marriages was not for himself. It was because some girl was affected, at least all those 16,100 girls, they were affected, and to benefit them, Krishna married all of them. So in this way, so this is one, so it just doesn't even depend on your intention. So somebody's intention may be good, but so just like somebody can become a devotee in such a way that it will cause a lot of problem in his family. So if it does that, then that again there is a conflict. But on the other hand, if you learn to do everything in such a way that it brings people together, then that is actually the ideal standard which is expected or spoken about here. Okay, so this applies to everybody. So for example, if you take Jarasandha's example, Jarasandha had so many Brahmins who were doing yajna for him. But all those Brahmins who were doing yajna, they were doing all kinds of yajna where Jarasandha was even about to slaughter so many kings. Right. So his Swadharma, the Swadharma of the Brahmins were not leading to Loka Sangra, it was leading to catastrophe. On the other hand, when Krishna understood that, in this way there is a problem happening here, and when the kings came to Krishna, and also Narad Muni came and said, Pandu Maharaj is having some problems in ascending to the higher planets. Then Krishna ensured that Yudhishthir does Rajasuya Yajna and at the same time conquers Jarasandha Loka Sangraha, because it would benefit so many people. It would benefit those kings, it would benefit people in Bharata, it would benefit Pandu Maharaj also, who was already departed. So this is a very, very interesting theme if you think about it carefully, the connection between both these points. Right. So this is one thing which I had to say upfront. Now, talking about Janaka, there is a beautiful story given here in his commentary. He speaks about Yajna. So he says that once upon a time, there was a teacher called Yajnavalkya. And it is said that when Yajnavalkya was teaching some sections of the Vedas, then our Janak Maharaj was also one of the students over there. And sometimes it's in Janaka Maharaj would be late to come to class, and Yajnavalkya would wait for Janak to come. And sometimes, and his other disciples who were there, Yajnavalkya's other disciples started feeling that why is our Guru giving so much attention to this Janaka? Maybe he is giving some special dakshina or something. That is why our Guru Maharaj is waiting for him always. Right. So in this, so Yajnavalkya understood this, that his disciples have some misunderstanding. So one day during the class, what Yajnavalkya did, he created an illusion of fire during the katha. So he was giving katha and he created an illusion of fire. It was not real fire, it was an illusion. And it is that all his disciples ran away except Janaka. Okay. And then everyone understood that, oh, actually, this Janaka is very great. He's very competent. He has a lot of Atma Tattva, he's perfect and he is most competent as a student. And hence, it is indeed appropriate that our Guru Maharaj is waiting for him to begin the class. Okay, so about Janaka, there are so many stories about his competence and his. So the amazing thing about Janaka is that he need not have done Karma Yoga at all. He was a person who was competent to do purely Jnana Yoga, which is what Arjun wanted. Okay, but that is why Krishna is giving his example. See, even such a person who need not have done Karma Yoga at all, even he did because of people in general. And then the next verse we all know, Yadyada Acharati Shreshta Satta Deve Darojana Sayat Pramanam Kurute Lokas Tadanu Vartate. Okay, so just like, right, because most people just follow example. Just like nowadays, if you see in college admission, etc., most people take computer engineering. So I'm many times I observe this, that most of the students just want to do whatever the whole crowd is doing, and that's very common. That's understandable also. Because they are seeing that the top students are going for computer science, they also want that. Right? They are seeing that many successful people have made careers in computer science, so they also want that. So this is how most people are going to do. And Krishna is using the word pramanam. Pramanam means we all understand, like three pramanas are there. Pramanam means the way to understand. So Krishna is also using the word pramanam here to indicate people will not only see great persons, but they will also see to what extent great people did karma yoga. And they will do to that extent. So Krishna wants to say that it is not just enough that you do karma yoga just for the sake of it, but rather you will have to do it very thoroughly, because people are going to see not only the action but the extent of the action. Okay, that means how you do it. Okay, so that is how he's using that word pramana here. And then this is very amazing, 3.22 onwards. Krishna is giving his own example. Name parthasti kartavyam tishu lokeshu kinchana nana vaptama vaptavyam vartayevacha karmani. He's saying that I don't need to do anything. I have nothing to give and take with this world. Because Krishna is higher than even the jnanis, right? He has nothing to do at all. But even I do karma. In fact, Ramanujacharya says that Krishna is such that even if he wants something in this world, even if he wants, first of all, he doesn't want anything from this world. But even if Krishna desires something, he can get it by Shakti called Satya Sankalpa. So Krishna has this, there is one, this Shakti called Satya Sankalpa. Satya Sankalpa means he can simply desire and that can happen. Just like we all know in Damodar Leela, he just desires that he should not be bound and he is not bound. And when he desires he should be bound, he becomes bound. So Satya Sankalpa means Krishna doesn't have to do anything physically in this world, even if he wants something for his Leela also. Simply by his desire only it can get done. But then the question is still, why does he graze cows, rule Dwaraka? He is acting as a peace messenger, trying to avoid the war. When the war is unavoidable, he is participating in the war, unlike our Balramji who went for Tirtha saying that, "Mere ko kuch bhi lena dena nahi hai politics ke saath." Krishna did not do that. He was in the middle of everything, right? He was in the middle. He was in the thick of whatever was happening. So Krishna doesn't have to do karma yoga for Atma Sakshatkar. Krishna doesn't have to do karma yoga because he will get sin if he doesn't do. Trishu Lokeshu means three worlds. Three worlds can mean either three worlds, the upper, middle, lower, or it could mean three types of species, Devata, human beings and animals. Because Krishna appears in all these places. Okay, so why is he doing it? So the answer Ramanujacharya says is he's doing it only out of karuna, compassion. He's doing it out of karuna for everybody in the world. Why is he doing out of karuna? Because in the next verse he says what happens if he doesn't. Yadi shayam na varteyam jatu karmanya tindritah mama vartmanu vartante manushya partha sarvashah. This verse, Ramanacharya says that Krishna is talking here hypothetically about what would happen if Krishna did not do Karma Yoga. Atindritaha, the word he translates as laziness, without laziness. That means Krishna is, the translation here is that I do Karma Yoga without laziness. That means not that I think, oh, this has to be done, what to do. No, I'm doing it without any laziness because it has to be done. Okay. And Manushya, since he's using the word Manushya, the commentators say that this means Krishna is talking about Krishna only and not about other incarnations like Vamana or Varahadev. Okay. And the another interesting characteristic of this verse is Krishna uses present tense. This word here, na Vartmanu Vartante. This Vartante word is used in this verse in present tense. Present tense means, though it is a hypothetical conjecture where Krishna wants to say that if I did not do Karma Yoga, the world will get destroyed. Everybody will follow me. But Krishna is saying that immediately people will start following me. That means, though it is a futuristic thing, hypothetically Krishna is speaking about what would happen if he did not do Karma Yoga. Krishna is confident that people will immediately start following him right then and there. People will say that, hey, look, even this guy, he is not doing his duty, so why should we do? Because it's very difficult to stick to Karma Yoga always. Right? And it's so easy to find some example and just not do it. Okay, so that's what Krishna is saying here. And then look at the next verse, the 24. Utsi deyu rime loka na kuryam karma chedaham sankarasya cha kartasyam upahanyam ima prajaha. Not just few, ime lokaha. Lokaha means the worlds will be destroyed. Krishna is saying that the whole worlds will be destroyed because people will simply copy. Utsi Deyur means worlds are destroyed. Sankarasya means uh, people will end up doing others' work. That's considered the translation of Sankarasya. How is it possible that people will do others' work? Because Krishna wants to tell Arjuna, hey Arjuna, you want to stop doing the duty of Kshatriya and try to be Brahman. Similarly, everybody will think that, oh, my current duty is so difficult, I will avoid this and do something else only. So that is what Sankarasya means. And everybody does something else. Upahanyam, they don't progress ahead. Upahanyam is a very interesting word here in this verse. It means that they will not progress. Why? What is the connection? Because only if you do your karma properly, you progress in life. Okay, so if somebody doesn't do his karma and tries to imitate somebody else, then they will not progress materially or even on the path of yoga, they are not going to progress. In this way, the worlds are going to be destroyed. And the next verse, Sakta Karmanya Avidvamsa Yata Kurvanti Bharata Kuryam Vidvamsata Satta Chikeshur Loka Sangram. Here in this particular verse, if you see the, I'll just read the translation of Srila Prabhupada. As the ignorant perform their duties with attachment to results, the learned may similarly act, but without attachment for the sake of leading people on the right path. So this is the translation, as the ignorant, because here Krishna is saying, Sakta karmani avidvam. Avidvam means somebody who is not intelligent. Ramanacharya gives an interesting commentary on this word avidwan. He's saying avidwan doesn't mean fully foolish. Somebody may say that avidwan means because if you look at avidwan here as a completely foolish and ignorant person, that means ignorant in the context of completely foolish and materialistic, then Arjuna can ask a question, hey Krishna, just to satisfy or convince some completely ignorant person and foolish person who is anyway not going to take the path of yoga, why should I, give up what I like to do? I want to do Jnana Yoga right now. Why should I give up Jnana Yoga and do Karma Yoga just for completely foolish people? Okay, so Ramanacharya says that no, here this word avidwan doesn't mean the materialist, but rather it means immature spiritualist. Okay, so he says that this avidwans here, we have to see it in the context of those who want to do spirituality but who are very immature. That is like Kanishta Adhikari. Okay, because this Kanishta Adhikari, they have a characteristic, this immature spiritualist, they have a characteristic, they will take the easy path, thinking this is the easy path for my self realization. Give up karma yoga and just do jnana yoga. And Krishna says that at least for their sake, you need to understand loka sangraham. So again, here the second time Krishna is using the same phrase, loka sangraha, which if you remember in our Yamunacharya's verse, it appears as, I just said, loka rakshaye, right? Yamunacharya uses the phrase loka rakshaye, which in the Bhagavad Gita comes as loka sangram. So the second time Krishna is using the same phrase. Okay, so Krishna is saying that these immature spiritualists who are there, they have to be guided on the right path, and at least for their sake, learned fellow should act but without attachment. Okay, he should act but without attachment. And then Krishna is continuing the same theme by saying, Na buddhi pedam janet ajnanam karma sanginam joshayet sarva karmani vidwan yukta samacharan. Okay, Krishna is saying buddhi bedam means people in general do karma yoga, but when they see that a person like Arjuna is given up karma yoga and doing jnana yoga, they will think even I will do the same thing. Why should I struggle hard with this karma yoga? Okay, because the reality of the matter is that to execute karma yoga day after day, month after month, year after year, it is very difficult. Just like practically also we see, if somebody is married, to stay with one's wife, to do the duties of Grihastha ashram, to take care of children, to take care of parents. It's kind of cumbersome, right? As in, at least for the conditioned mind, it's nice and fun to be just alone. And that's why we see most people in the world, they don't like only all family and these responsibilities, right? They don't like, they just like to be carefree. So most people are like that. So buddhi bedam. So, and if in the name of spirituality, you have a facility where you can give this up completely and just do jnana yoga, it's so nice. Okay, so Krishna is saying that this most people, buddhi bedam. So most people in general, buddhi bedam will happen. That means looking at you giving up karma yoga for jnana yoga, they will also try to copy you only. So rather, what is Krishna saying? Yukta samacharan. That means you do karma yoga nicely. Since you are in a superior position, you need to be responsible. Joshayet. That means make ordinary people attached to their duties and make them desire to do that better. Okay, then obviously in Arjuna's mind, this question will come, Arey, but what about me? Wouldn't I get delayed in my progress? Doing karma yoga just for the sake of people, am I not losing my own self-interest in this? That can be Arjuna's question here. So that is why Krishna is using the word yukta. Yukta, this particular word in this particular verse which is there, na? Vidwan yukta samacharan. Yukta means together. Together with what? Together with Jnana Yoga. So now onwards, if you see, Krishna is going to talk about doing Karma Yoga along with the understanding of Jnana Yoga. That means whatever in Jnana Yoga, the focus which is about the understanding part, that should be integrated along with Karma Yoga. That is where now Krishna is going to go. So Krishna is saying you do Jnana Yoga. I'm not saying you should not do, but do it yukta, do it together with this. Okay, and that is going to be the subject matter for the fourth chapter Bhagavad Gita, which we will discuss very soon. Because the fourth chapter is all about the Jnana Yoga that one needs to do along with the Karma Yoga. That means the knowledge that one needs to have along with Karma Yoga. Because Krishna is presenting, as we said many times earlier, a very integrated understanding. Okay. So in this way, Krishna is slowly taking him so beautifully. If you see this whole connection, verse after verse, theme after theme in the entire Gita, we can appreciate so much the connection that Krishna is having, right, in his whole presentation. And the next verse, Prakrite kriyamanani gune karmani sarvasya ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. This is an amazing verse, right? So this is the verse which is talking about the third part of this particular theme of which Yamunacharya talks about, Guneshwaropya Kartritam. That means everything is happening by the modes. Kartritva buddhi tyagam. That means not thinking oneself to be the doer. Okay, so why is not oneself to be the doer? Just like, so Ramanujacharya gives a nice example. So he says, like we may make a statement, Rama killed Ravana by his anger. Okay. So is this statement correct? If you ask a question, Rama killed Ravana by his anger. Is the statement correct? Then he says the answer is it is correct. So somebody may say, Arey, no, but Rama killed Ravana with the arrow, no? With this bow and arrow he killed. How can you say he killed Ravana by his anger? No. So the answer is no. It was because of the anger only that he raised his bow and arrow and he shot him. Okay, so similarly, like Kashyapa, Diti, due to her lust, she ensured that Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu come into her womb. So somebody may say, no, it was due to the sex act and all that. No, but that was due to lust only, right? So in this way, every action in this world is due to the modes only. So that's what this is. So this is again a knowledge. So this is part of Jnana Yoga. Having this understanding that I am not the doer, I am only a witness to my body, which is being engaged by the modes of nature in various activities. I mean, if you think about it, it's so amazing, right? In the morning, we are in Sattva Guna, we do some yoga, meditation, japa, and all that. Daytime passion increases, we start working, collecting money, this, that. Sometimes anger, Tamo Guna comes too much in our system, we start shouting at people, or even we go to sleep due to Tamoguna. So if you see in a way, our whole body, daily, morning to night, it is doing various activities simply due to the modes only, and we are only a witness to it. So this is again, this is Jnana Yoga. So this understanding has to be there as one is doing Karma Yoga, right? Kartritva Buddhi Tyagam. That means I am not the doer, okay, and everything is being done by the modes only, okay. And what is the continuation of that? Tattva vittu mahabaho guna karma vibhagayoho guna guneshu vartante iti matvana sajjate. Krishna is saying one who simply understands that gunas are connected to the activities, that person actually becomes free. Okay, just this understanding. That means to be consciously realize that I'm not the doer and I'm simply, acting as per the modes at different times of the day. And so please, Ramanujacharya also says, please note that this is not about committing sinful acts like murder or stealing. He says this is not about that. This is about karma yoga. That means even the good things that one may do, like one may do yajna, one may do dana, one may do tapa, one may beget children, one may rule a country, one may teach his students, one may do agriculture, one may take care of cows, whatever dharmic activity one is doing also, that also he's saying is all because of the modes only. It's not due to anything else. It's only because of the modes that you are engaged in these regular varnashram activities. So he's making the point that this doesn't apply only to somebody who is a murderer or a thief. These verses are not for such people. These verses are in the context of karma yoga only. Okay, so this is not, neither can any thief or a murderer say that, oh, it is the modes due to which I committed murder. Technically, that may be true or may not be true. Of course, it is true, we know that. But the point is, Krishna is not using these verses here for such people. How do we know that? Because Krishna is talking in the context of karma yoga. Krishna is talking in the context of dharmic people. Krishna is talking in the context of Arjuna, telling him that, hey, you need to do karma yoga. So you have to have this understanding that modes are only doing it, you are not the doer. So that is why these verses, Ramanujacharya says, is not for the sinful people, but it is for the pious people. Prakriter guna sammuda sajjante guna karmasu tan kritsna vido mandan kritsna vinna vichalayit. Okay, so this, one second, I'll just read this 29th. Bewildered by the modes of nature, ignorant fully engage in material activities and become attached, but the wise should not unsettle them, although these duties are inferior due to performers' lack of knowledge. Yeah. So the 29th verse, Krishna is again, the same point is being said about the modes. It's Kartritva Buddhi Tyagam only that is continuing. So Krishna is saying that, so one example Ramanujacharya says that if you give charity with your right hand, your left hand shouldn't know that you give charity. So this is considered some standard in Vedic system that if one gives charity, one shouldn't speak about it. Okay, so that means this is given as an example to say that anything done, nobody should blow their trumpet when they are doing any activity of dana, dharma, this and that. Okay, because one should understand that it is to the modes only I am being impelled and I need to do these things. Okay, so whether I eat, I give charity, I do puja. So in fact, he goes on to say that even if somebody is doing, if a sadhaka, when he does his puja and all that also, he's doing it because of the mode of goodness in him, which is right in a way, right? Because a normal sadhaka is not on a liberated platform where he is functioning at the level of pure goodness. A normal sadhaka, he is functioning at the level of sattvagun only. I mean, that's the maximum that he can expect because he's not yet reached that level where he's completely free from the modes of passion and ignorance. Okay, so this is again a very beautiful part of this chapter where Krishna is addressing a karma yogi and telling him that do karma yoga at the same time don't think that you are the doer. Okay, and then he concludes in a way this section by this very famous verse: Mayi sarvani karmani sanyasyadhyatma chetasa nirashir nirmamo bhutva yutyasva vigata jwaraha. So here Krishna is bringing himself into the equation, Mayi Sarvani Karmani, as we saw in that verse summarized by Yamunacharya, where he's saying, Asakya Lokarakshaye Guneshwaropya Kartritam Sarveshware Vanyasyokta. Sarveshware Vanyasyokta means, if you remember, I had said that giving up everything for the sake of the Supreme. That means do everything as an offering to Him. That means it's not for me. So that mamata is being addressed here. Right? Kartritva Buddhi Tyagam and Mamata Tyagam. That means this is for me. This has to be given up. That means I am doing everything for the sake of Supreme. Mai Sarvani Karmani. So he says, right? So in fact, he says that even when you are doing puja or deity worship, one should think, he says, that my hand, I am the hand of my guru and I'm doing it on his behalf. Okay, so in fact, in deity worship, there is this whole thing which we called as Manasa Puja and Bhuta Shuddhi prayers, where the whole idea is that you're doing everything on behalf of your spiritual master. You're like his instrument in this. Okay, and that has coming in this verse. Adhyatma Chetasa. Adhyatma Chetasa means coming to that spiritual level of understanding that I am being engaged by my guru only in this. I'm not doing anything. I'm only the instrument. And the Lord is using his own resources and getting his service done. Okay, so the Lord, as the Archamurti or whatever, he's using his own resources, which is my body, and doing it. And this is called as sannyasa. So this word sannyasa also come here, if you see. Sanyasya adhyatma chetasa. Sanyasya means akritatva sandhanam. That means nirashil. I'm not desiring anything. There is nothing for me over here. Nirmama. So this particular verse again very beautifully summarizes most of the Karma Yoga concepts that we saw here. Yeah. Anyway, so the purport of Srila Prabhupada also contains almost everything which which we are trying to say. So I'm just going ahead here. We're just taking the last two verses and end the day today. 3.31 and 32. So 31 is again a very interesting verse. One second, light went at my end. Yeah. So this 31 verse, Krishna is saying, Ye me matamidam nityam anutishtanti manavaha shraddhavanto nusuyanto muchyante tepi karma bihi. Okay, so the translation of Srila Prabhupada here is that those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and follow these teachings faithfully without envy become free from bondage of fruitive actions. Okay, Ramanacharya says there are three words here used. One is anutishtanti, one is shraddhavanto, and other is anusuyanto. Anutishtanti means follow me. Shraddhavanto means with faith. Anusuyanto means without envy. Okay, so Ramanacharya says if you see these three things, the highest thing is to follow Krishna. That means Krishna is saying that best is to follow what Krishna is saying. If somebody says I cannot follow, then at least have faith in what Krishna is saying. Somebody may say, my situation is so complicated, karma yoga I cannot do. Okay, you are unable to follow. At least have faith in what he is saying. Okay. Somebody may say that, even to have faith in what Krishna is saying is too much for me. Then Krishna is saying, at least don't envy my teachings. don't go anti to my teachings. Don't go against it. So if you see carefully the way Ramanujacharya presents this verses, these three things which are there, they are in descending order. Okay. Anutishtanti is highest. If not, at least Shraddhavanto. If that is also not possible, then at least don't envy what Krishna is saying. Okay. And so the idea is that if one doesn't envy what Krishna is saying, then slowly one will get faith in what Krishna is saying. And by having faith in what Krishna is saying, even if not immediately, at least in some lifetimes, you will be able to anudishtanti. You will be actually able to follow what Krishna is saying. So this is how Ramanacharya explains this particular verse. And then, of course, the 32nd verse we know. Etved abhyasuyanto nanutishtanti me matam sarvajnana vimudamstan viddhi nashtana chetasaha. And the translation of that is, but those who out of envy disregard these teachings and do not follow them, they are ruined. Okay, so I mean the same thing is mentioned in the opposite sense, that if one envies Krishna, anusuyanto, nanutishtanti, not ready to follow, okay, then such a person actually gets destroyed completely in his endeavor. Right. So with this, we end today's discussion. I'll just briefly, quickly summarize the most important points that we saw. So today the focus was on Loka Sangraha, which is the theme in this part of Bhagavad Gita. So I started saying that all Swadharma must be Loka Sangraha. It must integrate. It must be for benefit of people. We saw examples like Satrajit, Bhishma, Dhritarashtra. We saw examples, even Sudama Brahman. So some of them may had good intention, some may have had bad intention. But in either case, their Swadharma was not doing Loka Sangraha. On the other hand, we saw how the Pandavas or Krishna himself, whatever they did was always for Loka Sangraha. Then we also saw about Janaka, his greatness. We saw that story about Janaka along with his guru Yajnavalkya. And then we also discussed how most people are simply going to copy. They have no time to analyze very carefully what is to be done. They simply copy big people. That is what Krishna is saying, Yadyad acharati shreshtas. People are going to look for pramana just in great people. And I also said that king's position is so important. Then, of course, I also mentioned about how astrology was meant for kings. And we had a long discussion about this INS Vikrant yesterday's launch and astrology. Then Krishna gives his own example saying that I don't need anything in the world. Even if I want Satya Sankalpa Shakti se mere ko sab kuch prapt ho sakta hai, but still even I do graze cows, rule Dwarka, drive chariot of Arjun, because people will follow me immediately. It's not that people will take time to follow. People will immediately start following me and all the words will go into ruination. Okay, so this is what Krishna is saying, right? Then Krishna goes on to talk about this avidvam. Ramanacharya is mentioning that this avidvam, which is spoken in verse 25, is not referring to complete ignorant materialistic people, but referring to immature spiritualists, because these people will get maximum affected. Because the hardcore materialistic fellow anyway is not going to follow Karma Yoga, whether Arjuna follows or not. But the immature spiritualist who is there, he will say that I will copy Arjuna. Arjuna didn't do Karma Yoga, he did Jnana Yoga, I will also do that. So Krishna is saying that, so Ramanacharya is saying that is referring to immature spiritualist. Then we saw this whole series of, this Prakriti Kriyamanani, those set of verses where Krishna is saying that these verses, Krishna is talking from Karma Yoga perspective. That means for a Karma Yogi, this understanding is important that I am not the doer. This is not for the sinful man. Okay, and then we also concluded by, then this is most important verse was there, Mai Sarvani Karmani Sanyasya Adhyatma Chetasa of this section, where Krishna is bringing himself into the equation and saying that Mamata Tyagam, that is, don't do for yourself, offer it to the Supreme. And then the last section we saw was how these three things, either you follow Krishna or at least have faith in what Krishna is saying. If that is also not possible, then at least don't envy what Krishna is saying, right? So with this, we will stop for the day, and if there are any questions, then we can take it for some time. Yeah, so anybody with any questions? Okay, how do we envy what Krishna is saying? Okay, envy as in, envy here would mean that to think, oh, this person, that means to have very antagonistic feeling towards Krishna's teachings. See, it's like the best is to follow, or if you cannot follow, at least have faith. But at least don't feel that, oh, this person is saying all these things, just because he has some different background, this and that. So that means to feel very antagonistic to Krishna's teachings. That's what it means here, to be envious of Krishna's teachings. And that's what Krishna is saying. Don't be antagonistic to it. Don't go, don't develop that kind of aversion towards my teachings. How to deal with carefree attitude? Yeah, so that's what, na. So carefree attitude has to be bound by dharma. That means, this whole thing is very important about dharma. That means how all actions are done because it is dharma to do so. Just like, why one gets married. Many times we have this feeling that marriage is done because one has desires and all that. No, here Ramanujacharya uses this particular context to say that marriage is done because it is dharma. Okay, because one is, it is dharma to actually marry at a particular time one gets married. So this whole extremely duty-oriented system exists in Varnashram, where because things ought to be done. You have children, why? Not just because one wants to have sex, but because it is dharma to have children. Okay, so yeah, now within that framework of dharma, one can have some, comfort, luxuries, or whatever, but that is bound by that injunctions of Vedic dharma. So one will have to, ensure that one's carefree attitude is bound by that. We are not the doer, then where does free will come into picture? Okay. See, so that free will which is there, see, we are not the doer in the context, I'll tell you. So both are applicable. So here we are talking about how when the karma yogi is doing anything good, right? Like you get married, you have children, you give dana, you do yajna, right? You do puja, you do, maybe you take care of cows, you donate to the brahmanas, you do so many things we do. All this is due to the effect of modes only, right? I mean, if the modes weren't there, we wouldn't be able to do any of it. You need Sattva to do certain things. You need Rajaguna. Just like I was saying, right, when we were speaking about that INS Vikrant, to launch a satellite or whatever, a Navy ship, for a king to fight with the neighboring country, he needs Rajaguna. Without the help of Rajaguna, he will not be able to fight only with that neighboring king. So then, so of course you have a free will. Because of your free will only you're invoking that Rajoguna. That part is there. But if Rajoguna wouldn't have been there, you wouldn't have been able to do anything. You wouldn't have a child without Rajoguna. So the idea is that when you have to do karma yoga, all the activities of karma yoga are happening because you're taking the help of the modes, because your body is being influenced by the modes. Now, that doesn't negate free will completely. Obviously not, because, right? So both are getting reconciled. But here the focus is the understanding that no, it is because of the modes only that I am able to do karma yoga. Hence, I'm not the doer. Hence, I should not have this understanding that I'm the greatest person, greatest charity giver. What about? Okay, how to not be attached to our opinions? Yeah. So again, so we have our opinions in terms of. No, I don't know in which context I said that. So can somebody just clarify that? Then I'll be able to say. I don't know in which context I said that. Okay. Anybody would like to raise hand and ask? So I'll understand.
Pradu, you were mentioning in the starting of the class that about we have our attachments. So
We have our
attachments.
yeah. No, I didn't get that. Anyway.
So opinions, we also have attachments to our opinions.
Yeah. See, if the opinion we have is Shastric and it's in line with Shastra, then that's fine. Then there is no issue with it. But many times it's like there are many possibilities, right, that may exist to do a particular thing, and all may be correct. Then in that case, it's very difficult to say that this is the only way, because somebody else, if they are in the equation, then they may feel something different. Anyone else with a raise of hand? Yes,
Prabhuji, I
Vaibhavanand.
have a question.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. First Vaibhavanand Prabhu, then Dinesh. Yeah.
Yeah, Prabhuji, if we see the commentaries of Ramanujacharya, they are more, talking about karma yoga or jnana yoga towards. And within the commentary, we do not find immediately Krishna consciousness or indications are there, of course, but they are more into Sanskrit and they are more into the theme of the Bhagavad Gita rather than immediate goal or the ultimate goal of Gita. So that so that brings the question that has all these commentaries were only written for scholars, or
Yeah.
we are deducing?
I spoke about
Yeah.
this to Chaitanya Charan Prabhu and some other devotees as well once. It's not only Ramanujacharya. Most acharyas, including Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, you can take even Gaudiya Vaishnava acharyas. If you take their commentary also, commentary typically has all this only. They link the verses, they stick to that verse under question, they analyze the Sanskrit, they give various Puranic stories or some other references for those verses, and so on. Generally, commentaries were very scholarly and they were always meant for Brahmana type of people only. Okay. And commentaries generally never had instruction as in so that's very unique and special about Prabhupada's books as well. Like for example, Prabhupada will write that you should chant, you should get up at 4 o'clock, chant 16 rounds, do Mangalarati and all that. This is an instruction. Generally the understanding was instruction was given by a guru to a disciple and not part of a commentary of a text. You understood? So these people also obviously give instructions, but those instructions will not be in their Bhagavad Gita commentary. Okay, if you read, so if you go to them and if you not only Sri Vaishnavas, you go to any acharyas or anything, so traditionally the idea was that the guru would instruct you about what you should do, and commentaries were analyzing the text in a very scholarly fashion. Okay, so that's why Srila Prabhupada's commentary, there is one speciality in it, because Srila Prabhupada is also acting as a guru to whomever he is addressing. You understood? So that's why we call Srila Prabhupada as like Shiksha Guru.
Jagat Guru.
Yeah, yeah, because his books are not just some commentary; they are also addressing what one is supposed to do. But if you see any Acharya's commentary in our Sampradaya, in Sri Sampradaya, Madhva Sampradaya, anywhere, nobody will give instructions or they will deviate from the verse. No, they will not. If the verse is talking about something, they will talk only about that, because that's what the verse is talking. Okay, so Ramanujacharya, and another thing I think I also mentioned, Ramanujacharya obviously talks a lot about Krishna consciousness, quote unquote, Bhakti Yoga. But I already told you, many things that are overlapping with Prabhupada's purport, I'm not saying here in this overview session, because I'm focusing only on those aspects that are unique, correct, which are not already covered. Because otherwise, that is already covered, that you already know, right? Because all of us have read the Gita separately. You understood my point, no?
Yes. So, Prabhuji, does that mean that now general people should also go through, because these are more scholarly works?
Yeah. Now the thing is, it's good to go through, but you need a lot of stamina, a lot of energy to go through. I mean, honestly, like I'm doing this course where, like, it's in fact I'm doing a very short summary here. I'm learning literally verse by verse, one verse, one class. So because the commentaries are very elaborate also, and I'm not even doing many things, because many things in Ramanujacharya commentary, they will be quoting some Upanishad and those verses, and many things are part of the Sandhya Vandana and all that, which I'm not even covering here, because you need some background to be able to appreciate why he's saying that. Like in today's verse only that we saw, where Krishna is talking about Prakrite Kriyamanani, In the Sandhya Vandana prayers of a Brahmana, there is one prayer that comes Kamo Karished Manyura Karished Namo Namaha. So it's a very famous prayer actually, which is uttered during the Sandhya Vandana by the Brahmanas. So that verse in the Sandhya Vandana, how is that connected to 3.27? He is explaining in great detail. So I'm not even going into that because everybody here may not even know that background, right? Or Taittiriya Upanishad, this, that. So it takes a lot of effort, and it's not, it's nice to see, but it's kind of quite hard work to even study and go through. You understood what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, but given a
And
chance, I'm
just
sure.
a point.
Myself, I'm even looking for personally to study. I don't know when I will get an opportunity, but I wish to study even these famous Gaudiya Acharya commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam, like Sridhara Swami, Vishwanath Chakravarti and all that. I don't know who teaches or what, but I'm looking for some opportunity to learn, and maybe I should be able to do that. So, so that depends on one's inclination, liking, and all that. But it's great to learn these commentaries. Yeah.
Okay. And just a point, Projit, that for example, Brahmanas traditionally have been studying more Vedic literatures. So that is more towards Jnani Yoga rather than performing the activities on a daily basis. For example, somebody go out for work or grazing cows, all these things, or Shudras doing their job. Brahmanas would sit and learn more and do deity worship and all those stuff. So do the Karma Yoga belong, is for Brahmanas?
Yeah. See, it is not like that. So the Karma Yoga is very much there for a Brahmana. If you see the Brahman's activities, Yajan, Yajan, Patan, Patan, Dan, Parigraha. These are all coming under Karma Yoga only. Yajan, Yajan, teaching how to do Yagya, doing deity worship. That is all. Doing deity worship is considered by Ramanujacharya part of Karma Yoga. In the context, what he says is that you are doing deity worship in a very embodied state. You are not doing deity worship in a liberated platform. Na? So Ramanujacharya, what he says is deity worship is done by the sadhaka at the level of modes only, right? You need to take bath, you need to wear fresh clothes, you need to collect nice flowers from the garden. So he's saying that these activities are all due to modes only that you're doing. Because you're not a pure soul, right? Who is beyond the modes and serving in that level. Correct? The act of deity worship is transcendental, but the person executing the deity worship is in modes only, right? So he has to invoke the sattva guna when he's doing that thing. So he discusses even that as Karma Yoga only. So Karma Yoga and Ramanujacharya's definition is a very broad thing. It is not, he's not talking actually about our going to office and doing that work. He's talking in the dharma. That means sticking to that. Of course, and what you said is right in some sense, where for a Brahmana, jnana becomes important, but that jnana is not exclusively done. See, that's the point. He has to teach. Teaching is Karma Yoga. A pure jnani doesn't teach. Like if you see the four Kumaras, they are not teaching anybody. They are just lost in jnana yoga only, literally. I mean, as in, correct? They are not teachers. So teaching is a function of Karma Yoga only. You are teaching because of Sattva Guna, passion, Rajo Guna. Correct. So Brahmana's activities are very much Karma Yoga, but certainly a Brahmana will have more jnana in his Karma Yoga, and he is disseminating that to common people also. Where in the lower rung Varnashram hierarchy, a Shudra may be more engaged in activity and less in accumulation of knowledge. But each of them is under some combination of karma and yoga only. Nobody is exempt from either. That's the point. Is that okay?
Okay. Just the last point, that is Bhagavad Gita relevant with today's activities? I'm asking this again because in today's world we have nothing of a semblance of the Varnashram, and Bhagavad Gita has the basis of Varnashram while it is being spoken.
Probably two ways to look at it. First thing is, you are referring only to the work part, which is less than 6-7 hours of your life. If you carefully look at it like that also now, how much do you actually work? I mean, maximum 8 hours they work. That also they don't work full time. They do a lot of time passing. Other 16 hours where you are engaging with your family, you're engaging with society, that is all under Karma Yoga only, na? And coming to
Oh,
that
yes.
part also of those 6-8 hours, honestly, what happens na, Prabhuji? Only some professions na, they seem very much disconnected from welfare of people in general. I mean, I'm sorry to give an example, but sometimes this IT work, it seems to be very disconnected because what happens is we don't even understand why we are doing something. We may be working for some client who is in Bank of America or Bank of England. We may be sitting here and working. So it may not be very clear
Yeah.
how we are benefiting the society. But if you see, even in the modern world, like yesterday, this INS Vikrant that was launched and everything, if you see carefully, it's very much integrated. That is very much integrated, right? Just that the technology has changed. But the whole idea of collecting weapons and protecting your country was there in Mahabharata in a different form, today in a different form. But concept is very much there. So a doctor, a
Okay.
teacher, so many professions are there even in today's world, which where you may see more direct connection to society. I think this problem happens only with IT people, where we may see little less connection because most of the time we are sitting and working for some American or European client. Okay, one
Yeah.
thing we could see positively is that we are getting foreign exchange and our country is becoming stronger. So that is how Loka Sangra is being done. There is welfare of the nation in it. So
Yeah.
that's one understanding that you could have while doing it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, Dinesh, you had a question? I don't know whether
Rohit, so like there are so many commentaries on one particular book, like one Bhagavad Gita, and so I guess that comes from the individual understanding on how you look at it. Similarly, even we see in ISKCON, like we have many big leaders, like simple example like Govind Prabhu, he has a particular ideology. RSP has a someone. So many times I feel that uh, that I don't know what is going to be my idea of spirituality and how do I find it. Just like how we find the concept of swadharma for our life, like with respect to this existence for this material world. Similarly, do we have anything as such to find out what is meant for your soul, like, or for your kind of understanding? Does this happen over the period of time just by practicing, or do we have to put a little bit more effort to find out what is there for us?
a good, very good question. Very good question. It is indeed true. It is indeed true that even in spiritual life there is a swadharma. That means there is a particular unique way in which every individual is attracted to certain type of bhakti. You can't put everybody in general under one frame and block everyone. It will never happen like that. I mean, why even within ISKCON we see that, right? Like some people like kirtan more. They may just do japa because it has to be done, but their focus is kirtan. They like hours and hours of kirtan. Many Gurukuli children, many second generation, many people like kirtan a lot. Somebody likes deity worship a lot. He will do everything. There are some people who like books and studying a lot. I know one devotee. He's a very good scholar of Srimad Bhagavatam. So he was once saying that morning he gets up and first thing he does is start studying Bhagavatam. Then we asked him, when do you chant and all that? He said that somewhere I chant at night, I will sit and chant, evening I'll chant. So because he's so interested in that study part of Bhagavatam, that's the first thing he does in the morning. It may not be very conventional, and maybe someone who is a very traditional outlook to spiritual life may say that aisa kaisa kar rahe ho? You should start chanting first. Later only you should read. But that's his liking, that's his call. So it is certainly a fact that there is a swadharma even in your spiritual life. That means there is a very unique way in which you are attracted to do bhakti towards Krishna. And the general, our system accepted it always. The Vedic tradition accepts it very much. I think it is clear with time for every individual. Why not? With time, see, many things you come to know only with time and experience. Because initially we just start some standard framework, right? And then only you understand with in our education also same thing happens. In schooling, when you go to school, you study everything. You study science, you study math, you study history, geography, English. But as you go towards PhD, you narrow in one part, right? You may do only a PhD in nanoparticles for some semiconductor industry. So it's very, very narrowed down. So similarly, I think, we all may start in a very broad program, but eventually everybody will have one particular call and liking. And I see no problem in that.
Uh,
Makes
because
sense?
I actually had this doubt, like, if a person is as big as Govind Pro or something, people will not openly tell it. But if a normal person like me, right, people just
Haribol, Dinesh, I lost you for a minute. I got disconnected. I've just come back. Yeah, please tell me.
Yeah, so I had this doubt because, like, if a person is like, big like Govind Pro or something, like, people may not tell upfront, like, मतलब इतना हिम्मत नहीं होता है, but people like, ordinary people like me, whenever we try to come up with something new according to our own, I can say even standards or our understanding, the people are all ready to all pin it down or something like that. So that creates a lot of conflict with regards to confidence at the same time, like confidence with respect to the understanding, our understanding based on our own nature, something. So that's how I actually had this doubt.
Because what happens is that a mob likes uniformity. See, that's a characteristic of a mob. Mob likes uniformity.
Mhm.
In a mob, you cannot say anything different. I mean, any mob it may be, even spiritual mob, or like if you see all these farmers, so-called farmers who are sitting in agitation, right? Thousands of them. They like uniformity of
Mhm.
thought. If you go and tell them that, hey, these farm bills are actually good for you, they will not accept it only, especially if they are in that mob. That's why it's called mob psychology. Na? Mob psychology
Mhm.
doesn't want, mob psychology looks for a united understanding. That's mob psychology. So that's why sometimes it is said that a Brahmana is never controlled by anybody. He's always individual, because he cannot be controlled by a mob. Because an individual thinker, he has his own understanding of how things are. Why will he just bend because somebody else is saying something? No, it never happens like that. So anyway, that challenge may be there, but as a fact, we are talking principles here. As a fact of matter, yes, Swadharma exists everywhere. There is absolutely no question about it. You can't change the philosophy just because you don't like something. Make sense? Haribol?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, done. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I think questions are over. If any last question we can take, otherwise we end the day. We're already overshot by some time. Okay, thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sripad Ramanujacharya ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Nitaya Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.